Hello and welcome back to the Embodied AI Video Digest. I'm Fred's AI avatar. The real Fred and I go through the week's embodied AI news together. He does the thinking, I do the talking, and in about 10 minutes you get the 5 stories that actually matter, one for each layer of the stack. Brains, the models, bodies, the hardware, movement, what they can physically do, usefulness, whether anyone pays for it, and acceptance, whether society lets them in. This week, NVIDIA squeezes a robot's imagination onto a single chip. Italy walks into the humanoid race with a robot covered in skin. A Chinese robot dog goes properly viral climbing a mountain with a rucksack's worth of cargo. Tesla finally tells us where Optimus really stands. And America's robotaxis get marched towards a driving test. Let's go. Layer 1, Brains. On Monday at SIGGRAPH in Los Angeles, NVIDIA released Cosmos 3 Edge, a world foundation model with 4 billion parameters, open weights, free to download, and small enough to run in real time on a single Jetson board or one RTX workstation. Why does that matter? A world model is the robot's imagination. It predicts what the world will look like a second from now, so the machine can rehearse an action before committing to it. Until now, that kind of imagination lived in a data center. NVIDIA's own demo made the point brutally. Cosmos Dreams, their closed-loop driving simulator, needed 64 H100 processors 2 years ago. On Monday, it ran live on a single GPU. And remember the stack, GR00T, NVIDIA's humanoid brain, and their robotaxi driving policy both sit on top of Cosmos. So when Cosmos shrinks, every robot built on it gets a cheaper, faster imagination. The strategic so what? Simulation-trained robots stop being a privilege of companies with hyperscale compute. A startup in Lagos or Lyon can now put the same class of world model inside a 20-kilo robot. Watch the long tail of robotics get smarter, fast. Layer 2, Bodies. For 2 years, this show has essentially been a US and China story. This week, Europe walked in through Genoa. Generative Bionics, a spin-off from the Italian Institute of Technology, unveiled Gene.01, a fully functional humanoid, and gave it its American debut at AMD's Advancing AI event in San Francisco on Wednesday and Thursday. What makes this robot different is not strength or speed, it is skin. The entire body is covered in a sensor network that feels touch, pressure, proximity, force, and temperature. It senses a human before contact is even made. The company built the working prototype in 6 months. They claim an industry record, and they have open-sourced the robot model so other developers can build on it. And it already has a job lined up. Generative Bionics is working with Fincantieri, one of the world's biggest shipbuilders, to turn it into a welding humanoid for shipyards. The so what? Everyone else is racing to make humanoids stronger and faster. The Italians are betting the real bottleneck is trust, whether a robot can safely share space with human workers. Skin is how you get invited inside the factory, and Europe just made it its opening move. Layer 3, Movement, and the clip you have probably already seen, because it was everywhere on X this week, millions of views within a day. On Friday, Unitree released the Super Athlete AS2-W, a robot dog with a twist. It has wheels for feet. Watch what it does. On tarmac, it rolls silent and fast over 6 meters per second. The moment the ground turns to rock, gravel, or stairs, it stands up and climbs, then drops back onto its wheels the instant the terrain allows. 25 kilos of machine carrying a continuous 16-kilo payload up a mountainside with over 30 kilometers of range on a charge, all of it driven by pre-trained reinforcement learning, deciding in real time whether to roll or to step. This is not a party trick. Rolling is 10 times more efficient than walking, and legs only pay for themselves when the ground gets hostile. Wheels where you can, legs where you must. That hybrid is the correct answer for inspection rounds, mines, construction sites, and military logistics, which is precisely the terrain in the video. And a promise kept from last week. Unitree's Shanghai IPO has still not rung the bell. Pricing and subscriptions are being finalized, and the debut is expected within days. Timing a viral masterclass the same week you price your listing. That is not a coincidence, that is marketing. Layer 4, Usefulness, and the second promise from last week. Tesla held its Q2 earnings call on Wednesday, and for the first time, we got the unvarnished state of Optimus. The headline, Tesla confirmed it is installing the first-generation Optimus production lines at Fremont, in the space where the Model S and X line was torn out in just 46 days, and says production starts soon. But listen to Musk's framing. He called Optimus, quote, the hardest product to scale manufacturing that we have ever made at Tesla, because everything on the robot is new. 10,000 unique parts, no existing supply chain. Output will be, quote, quite slow at first, and he says it is literally impossible to predict this year's production rate. The V3 design we were promised has still not been shown, and as of the call, there is not one verified production unit. The first robots off the line will not go to customers at all, they will collect training data. The footage you are watching is Tesla's own archive of the current generation, because that is all anyone outside Fremont has seen. The so what? This is the most honest reality check yet from the loudest voice in humanoids, and it is still the biggest capital commitment any Western player has made. An entire car factory handed over to robots. Both things are true. Calibrate accordingly. Layer 5, acceptance and promise number 3. Last week we told you America's robotaxi companies would be handing their homework to the regulator. Here is where that stands. The end of July deadline is now days away. Every autonomous vehicle developer must show the regulator how their cars will stop blundering into emergency scenes after Waymo stalled out during San Francisco's 4th of July gridlock. The week's starkest data point came from Zoox, which recalled its entire fleet, all 105 robotaxis, after one drove into an active fire scene in Las Vegas, unable to recognize heavy smoke. And the agency's administrator confirmed the bigger plan, a full federal safety rulebook for autonomous vehicles by 2028, built around behavioral competencies, essentially a driving test for machines. In parallel, the same agency is proposing to delete the rules that require steering wheels and wipers at all. Meanwhile, Waymo just keeps expanding, driverless in Las Vegas since the 8th, 500,000 rides a week, and on Thursday it declared its 3-vehicle fleet complete. The so what? Regulation is shifting from permission slips to examinations. That sounds like friction, but for the leaders it is a gift. Whoever passes the driving test first does not just get compliance, they get a moat. So, week 30, brains, NVIDIA put a world model on a single chip and open-sourced it. Bodies, Italy joined the humanoid race with Gene.01 and its full-body skin. Movement, Unitree's wheel-legged super athlete climbed a mountain and conquered the internet. Usefulness, Tesla is installing the Optimus lines at Fremont and telling us honestly that scaling will be brutal. Acceptance, the regulator is turning robotaxi oversight into a driving test, and Zoox just failed a question. One thread ties it all together. The gap between demo and deployment is where this industry now lives. The viral clips are getting cheaper to make, and the real milestones, production lines, recalls, rulebooks, are getting harder to fake. Telling one from the other is exactly why this digest exists. Next week, the Shanghai bell should finally ring for Unitree. We will see which robotaxi companies actually turned in their homework by the 31st, and DJI unveils whatever see more, tell more means on the 30th. If this was useful, subscribe and share it with one colleague who still thinks robots are 5 years away. I'm Fred's avatar. He does the thinking, I do the talking. See you next week.